We're mic'd up with Montgomery.
Welcome to Real Talk, where real estate meets real conversations.
I'm Sean Harvey.
I'm Brittany Newhart.
I'm Alexander Zell.
Welcome, Alex.
Yes, so Alex is new to our crew, but not super new.
Not new to the office, but new to the podcast.
Yes. Well, a little bit of both. I mean, he's a little newer, so he's our youngest one on, I guess. Not last person on, but yeah, we're happy to have you. So,
Thank you.
We are going to talk a little bit about some slang terms here and kind of go into some misconceptions about what everybody thinks some certain slang terms mean, because, you know, we're all a little bit older now.
I'm going to master that.
Yes, I hope so. You have teenage kids, so you said you would do fine.
I have a daughter who's going to be 13 in a week and a son who's going to be 18 in 3 weeks, so I'm going to get this.
Yeah. So do you know what generation you are?
No.
You know what generation you're, like your generational name?
In all technicality, I'm a cusper. So
I have no idea what that means.
So I'm right at the end.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm in between Gen Z and...
Would millennial be right?
Millennials, yes. Millennials. So Sean and I are probably true millennials.
Yeah.
Well, so millennials is 81 to 96, and then Gen Z is 96 to 2012. So I'm on the edge of that too. Just like Alex.
I don't keep track of my generation.
You're just very old.
Because there's a lot of variation in people.
There
so
is.
I don't think it's right to classify us all as the same thing.
Yeah. Well, these, like, they've gotten so different with names. So, like, it was Gen X, then millennials is technically Gen Y, but it was when the years changed, went to 2000, or there's millennium or whatever changed. I don't know. It was all goofy. Then now it's like, go back to A, and we're Gen Alpha. But some of these older names, like boomers, and there's a couple other ones. I was like, this kind of seemed rude. Silent generation. I was like, huh.
It's kind of hard to keep up with for me, how the age, the breakdowns, I mean, the years.
Yeah.
I was born in the 90s. You know, what I think is really going to be funny is when my kids are older, or I'm older, I was born in the 1900s, and that's going to be like, what? You're so old. Yeah.
I always think it's funny when you're on Facebook and you're like, the distance between these 2 years is the same as the distance between these 2 years. And it's like, now you feel old. Like,
yeah.
It's the difference between the 60s and the 90s.
It all depends on when you grew up. Yeah. I was born in the 1980s. Can you believe it? I mean, I was born like a century ago.
Yep. That is true. No, you're so old. So I was Googling some of these words, slang terms, sayings, because sometimes they're sayings, not just one word, and it popped up and it was like Oprah's guidebook thing, and I'm like, it's pretty bad when like Oprah breaks down and has to describe things like, here's what your grandkids are talking about, and it's like, right. But I'm over here and I'm like, I have no idea what that means, I have no idea what that means, and I'm like, uh-oh, right. I'm old.
Yeah,
that's when it hit. So.
But we're not really.
No. Did your generation have a lot of slang terms in school?
Most of it, because I was in with the weird kids, so I think most of ours we made up ourselves.
Gotcha.
Well, I feel like that's where it all starts. So somebody has to start it somewhere.
Yeah, but I feel like a lot of it is just people being lazy, like suspicious kind of thing. You can't peek. I see you sneak in the look.
I'm trying to study her
yes. a bit. No, I have it written down. I couldn't remember all of them. So, but I was like, we just getting lazy? Like my generation at least, probably Sean's. You know, he went through old technology and new technology too. But like we started doing like TTYL and BRB, like that's kind of our old terms, because you just want to type it out so
much. But the letter of these had a meaning.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I'm not even sure what some of these words mean.
No.
Some of them are crazy.
Yeah. So, okay, you ready for some of these?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do an easy one first. I'll try to do something easy. Okay.
Is this a test to see who can answer it faster?
No, I'm back for it to see how many you get right. Okay, so we'll start with Alex here. Do you know what no cap means?
No lie.
Good job. Did you cheat, like Sean?
I couldn't even read it. She didn't give me enough time, unfortunately.
Okay, Sean, on fleek.
That means that you're like on point. Yes.
Good job. Okay, if somebody says this slaps, Alex.
And it slaps. It's good stuff.
Good, impressive. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
If you're woke What does that mean?
You're excited? I have no idea.
If you stay woke with the times. I don't
You
know.
know what's up.
You know what's
Yeah.
It's like being hip.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Well,
Yeah.
this, like, Oprah's like, it means that you know, like, you keep up with things in political as. I'm like, not this.
No.
I'm like, no kids in school are gonna be like,
No.
you're so woke because
They're not
you know
following
that-
the politics or anything.
No. I was like, you're close, Oprah, but you're not right. Okay, if somebody says this is bussin'.
It's another synonym for good.
Yep. That's kind of like
You know what?
stupid.
I've started using that one. I figured if my kids want to use it, I'm going to use it
So
too.
do your kids use a lot of these?
Buzzing for sure.
Do they do it like actually in their conversations or just to like make fun of things?
I don't know. I think they made fun of it to start with, but now I've heard it so many times. I've just introduced it into my commentary when I'm talking to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the sus one, I kind of incorporated in now, and I'm like, uh-oh, like.
Because
That's
I really
kinda
want to
sus.
stay woke,
Yeah.
so.
Yep, he's staying woke.
For me, sus is that's a little bit of an older one because I was like back on Future, like early 2012 to
Oh, gosh,
2016. So that one's already kind of passed.
Well,
on me.
I'm about 12 years behind, I guess. Okay, a little bit into one. Whose turn is it here? Sean's?
I suppose.
I don't know. Alex is actually.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay, if somebody, what's a kiki mean?
It's a name, ain't it?
Nope. Well, kind of, but it's a party, and I was like, we're gonna go have a kiki. Go have a party? Yep. I was like, never heard that before.
Never heard that before.
Yep. Okay, rent free. It's a real estate.
I know what I think it is.
No, if something occupies your thoughts, it stays rent free in your
Oh,
head.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well, there's a lot of rent-free living out there.
Yeah.
So.
I can't wait if your daughter listens to this and she's gonna be like, oh, these old people are so
Yeah.
Okay, do you know what Ohio means?
Subpar.
Something kind of weird and odd out there.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, I'm like,
Ohio Rizzlers even.
but I'm like, who? I don't know where that means. But like, who took it out on Ohio? Like, this is rude. Like, poor Ohio.
Well, what's a
people.
Rizzler, Brittany?
I don't know. What is it?
That means you have charisma, I'm told.
Oh yeah, you can like, you got Riz. I did read one of those. There's so many definitions.
So you got a subpar charisma person. I don't know how.
So-
it works.
Okay, Sean, if somebody told you that you ate and left no crumbs, what does that mean?
That means that. Well, I think it's a compliment. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that refers to outfit or style or did a good job, but I didn't leave any bad parts behind. So.
Right. So when someone does an exceptional job at something.
Yeah.
So when you hit that closing, you ate and left no crumbs.
That's right. Actually, I have 2 closings, so I might post that for one of them.
That would be so. I ate and left no crumbs. This one was a little hard on me. So do you know what chuggy means?
Could I get a definition?
Yeah.
Could you spell it out?
Okay, well, some of this stuff was like Ugg boots and Spice Girls and a couple other things in that skinny jeans.
So something that like nowadays would seem crunchy is so.
Yep.
Like,
So it's cringy or awkward. And
Okay.
what's bad is I was reading it.
You
and
know,
I was-
cringy, not everybody knows cringy either.
Oh,
You're using
yeah,
other
see, like,
definitions.
That's true. So it means like a little weird and out there. But what was funny is I was reading it and I was thinking it was a compliment for a second. And then I was like, oh, no. Because I was like, oh yeah, Ugg boots. People like Ugg boots. And oh, skinny jeans. People like, I'm like, oh, never mind. I guess that's not cool anymore. I was like, I guess, yeah.
Skinny jeans are not it.
Nope.
No,
what
flare
happens
bottoms.
to function
Flare
over
bottoms.
fashion?
Right?
Flare bottoms.
Yeah.
So,
And we're all tripping over our pants. They're
Yeah.
wet from the snow. It's
yeah,
horrible.
your pants have to be up to your mid chest and.
They might not. Go over your belly button, okay?
Yep.
Yep, just, yeah, crazy. Don't tuck in your shirt, though. So, no. So, it's pretty bad. But could you imagine writing a home description with these? Like,
Don't tempt me.
it's, like, I'm like,
Would
it
that
would
be the
kind of
worst
be
thing in the world?
like, maybe I wouldn't post it on, like, the MLS, but I definitely feel like I could, like, here's a Facebook post. This house is busted. Like,
yeah, that's right.
you can make them. busting spaghetti
sounds
up in
fun
here.
to me. Yeah, I mean, just throw people off a little bit.
Yeah, I'm like, it would make you look.
They would.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Especially if you put a little bus afterwards.
Yep. Gosh. And then all these people cringing. So at least we don't have to worry about them buying houses for just a little bit. Just Jen out.
That's all right. I'm up. I'm up on this now. I've learned from my kids and now from you, and I feel like we could conquer anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this in the drawer.
Yeah.
To look back on.
Laminated.
Somebody be like, yeah, okay, what does that mean? Oprah, help. I just thought it was so funny that popped up because I feel like there's a generation that watches Oprah and then she's like, here's your guidebook to kids these days.
Right.
And
yeah. Like, well, it's kind of handy.
Yeah, and I'm like, I remember when I was kids these days.
Right? I'm almost willing to bet money that Oprah still doesn't know what that means.
Oh, no.
Some intern.
So, yeah, somebody's whispering in her ear all the time.
Yeah.
That's what we need, headphones. You're like, what does it mean again? Yeah, people are talking.
We're just running unscripted here.
That's like, we have to stay up on this. We're going to go show a house, and we're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's this house is real chuggy, and they're going to be like, I don't want to go see it. And I'll be like, oh, I thought that was a compliment. They're like, no, it's great. And like, that's not what that means. So I guess now we got to keep up with the times on slang words.
Well, my clients were interested, but they think it's a sus neighborhood.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's good.
That's what's,
No,
it's going to happen.
No, it's
going to happen.
Yep. Yeah, all these text things. Or,
that's right.
Yeah, like LOL now is like so common. Like everybody knows it. And nobody ever says laugh out loud. Like, when you read it in your
Isn't
head...
it funny, though, when you're always typing LOL, but nobody's actually laughing?
Right.
Yeah.
You're sitting there,
That's absolutely...
so
or you're sending a laughing face. You're literally... People are expressing themselves through emojis, but not on their face whatsoever.
No. You're sitting there dead face.
Yeah.
You're
or
so
you get a
funny.
laughing face, a rolling laughing, or whatever all these are, and an excitement face, and the person is sitting right across from you, you're like, yeah, there's no emotion.
Yeah.
It's a little flavor to light.
Yeah.
But I always thought that was funny. Like, everybody you read a text, and some of these things you don't even read out anymore. Like, they mean their own thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So some other things that kind of get tangled up in the world, not just slang words, is some misconceptions about real estate. So Alex brought a couple points that sometimes get mixed up. So what do you got first?
So I'm still in my first year as a broker associate, so there's kind of some things that I'm learning along the way that I sort of had misconceptions about the industry with. And the one that I kind of have come across a lot when answering the phones is somebody wants to speak with, let's say Brittany, let's say Sean, because they're the person that's on the sign. And that's just simply not true. You can work with whoever you'd like to work with, and if the person you want to work with is on the sign, that's awesome. But really anybody with a license can show any property.
Definitely.
And that's...
Right, and that's a very valid point. It's very true. Don't pick the person because of the sign. Pick the person because you actually like the person or want to work with that person.
Definitely.
And I've always said, if somebody comes into my office and they don't feel like they jive with me, then I send them down, go interview.
Across the hall?
Go across the hall and interview another agent, but don't be afraid to, like stop into our office if you want and talk to two different agents if you want and see who you like better. I mean,
definitely.
Because it's a little bit of a commitment.
Yeah,
it
is. You're working. Like Sean said one time, he's been with people for 4 to 5 years down the road, trying to look for one house. And
that gets to be pretty tough if you don't jive with that person.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's any animosity towards each other, but if you have totally different personalities, then figure it out. I mean,
for sure. And I think that is one thing that every first-time home buyer kind of comes up to and learns is like, oh yeah, like how do you find a real estate agent? Like through Google, on the sign, going that way. But you can pick anybody. Every South Dakota real estate agent can sell in South Dakota anywhere. But also, for myself, I don't want to sell in Rapid. I don't want to sell in Sioux Falls because it's so much of a different market. I want to know the area I have specialties. But we can also refer. Like, I've referred to Mitchell even, and I worked with that agent. So you can kind of work together. The person had questions. They couldn't get a hold of the other agent. They contacted me.
Well, I don't know what is a great neighborhood in Rapid City. Exactly. If somebody calls me or Sioux Falls, I mean, that's their territory. That's their deal. I mean, if you're dead set that you have to have one of us do it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we can just refer you to another expert in that area.
Well, more or less, it's like if you're looking for a property, it's hard. But if you say you found the property, you're like, I want to put an offer, for sure, we'll do the paperwork for you. That's great. But don't be like, hey, is this a good neighborhood? Is this close to my work? I have no clue.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, let's Google this.
Yeah,
where do you work? Address of your work, please.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's all we can really do. And there's probably not a time where I'm going to drive 4 hours just to look at a house.
Right.
To show it to you.
But there's
refer you.
Yeah. But back to the topic. I mean, there's people that are going to like working with Brittany and not me, or Alex and not me, or there's different combinations of personalities. None of us are the same. We're all different in our own ways.
Yeah.
And we all do a great job. So pick the person you want to work with.
There's a few times, our first time buying, we did call a person off the sign the first time around, and then the second time around, we called a different person on a different sign. Well, then by that time, they were like, how about this house? And they showed us 6 other houses. Then we stuck with that person, realizing, oh, hey. So sometimes it takes a few times, and that's where we want to make sure people know you can find your agent.
But there's also the common misconception that you should call the person with the most signs out. Well, I mean, that could be.
Yes and no. They might be too busy for you.
But they might be busier than the person who has less signs out that might have more time to commit to it. So
that is true. Somebody with less showings and less buyers at the time, that doesn't mean that they're less of an agent. It also could just mean maybe they're the best agent and they just get shit done very quick.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
But also, that person's going to dedicate all their time. When you want something answered, they're right there for you. They're not like, oh, sorry, I'm meeting with another buyer. Bye. Sorry, I have 6 other people that want that house. I can't represent you on it. So it's
but those are there's a lot of different aspects, and that's why I've always said and will always say, interview a couple agents if you're not sure.
Yeah.
If you're committed to calling Alex, that's great. Call Alex. If you're committed to calling Brittany, whatever, call Brittany. If you're not sure, it might not hurt to ask around.
Yeah, but kind of like how Jamie said with lending wise, if you're gonna compare, make sure everybody has the same information.
Right.
And giving them the same opportunities too, because that does kind of suck when it's like, you give this person one detail about a house and they're asking all these questions, but then you tell this other person all these things. Mm-hmm. So it's like, throw us out, interview us, but give everybody the same shot. So
that's right.
Yeah, you'd be surprised by how much knowledge we have up in our thinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your next one?
Another big one that I've noticed working with a few people is the misconception that you need to have 20% down when you purchase a house. Yeah. There's a lot of financing options these days. Some of them you could even go as low as 0% down.
Yeah, that is a big thing. To come up with that money right out of pocket, right out of closing, is hard to not have that financed in. So
yeah, and that kind of creates a perceived barrier of entry into home ownership when in all actuality your loan officer is going to be working with you to make sure that you are the best capable, financially speaking, going into that.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I had to have 20% down when I bought my first house, it wouldn't happen. I mean, there's just no way.
I think that I don't even think we put anything down. And some of that is the appraised value. So, say a house appraises for $200, but the offer, you got it for $150. There's $50,000 right there fluctuating. So, talk to your lender.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe let's find it.
But they have grants available.
Yeah,
you can ask for seller to pay closing costs. You can do different types of loans. There's tons of options out there, so you don't have to put a penny down. Yeah. Even if you have $20,000 in the bank, sometimes you might not want to use all that money because you might want to plan for the furnace going out, the water heater going out, or maybe you want to buy furniture so you can actually live in the house you're buying. You're going to need cash for that too. So, yeah.
Yeah, for my house, if I would have put, 20% down, I'd still probably be without a hot water heater. Mine went out the first week I was in the house.
Oh,
so.
That does happen.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So, what's your next one?
Those are the two big ones. looking at the selling side of things, a lot of people like to think that it's best to price your home initially, but that's also kind of a surefire way to have it sit on the market for a while.
Oh, pricing it high. Yeah. Yes and no. I mean,
There is
people
a rule of thumb. You can always go down, which is very true.
Yes.
The problem is that if you price it so high that you don't get any interest in the first couple of weeks,
now it's
nobody cares if it goes down because you started too high to begin with.
Yeah.
And the first 2 weeks are always the best two of the advertising. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And I'll say this on pricing your home. There is times where people look at houses. We run our market analysis. We work with the seller on it. Sometimes the seller needs a certain amount, and sometimes that's why it's priced that way. There is a million reasons on why a house is priced that way, and they're not always cut clear, open to the public, everything. They bought it privately. They listed it differently in the end. So, yes, it's great to do your research as a buyer yourself, but also talk to your agent and see what's the reasoning for this house being that.
Well, if you had if you bought your house 2 years ago and you bought it with zero money down in the peak of the market, then that it doesn't matter what our numbers look like. If you have to sell that house, we're going to have to start it on the higher spectrum because there's costs incurred with selling a house.
Yeah.
And you have to cash out. So if you're in a pinch, you need to sell it for a job, you just not working out for you. We'll figure it out. We'll sort it out. And we'll market it the best we can.
With this 20% down type conversation and with closing costs and all that, if you're a buyer, even though, not talking about commissions or anything because that's on the seller side, but even just your basic closing costs, that right there is going to add on to that purchase price. So you buy a house for $150, your closing costs sometimes are in that loan too. So if somebody turns around and sells their house in 5 months, they can't just post it for 150 because they owe maybe 155, 158,
right,
whatever it is. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes with the price. And sometimes all the people see is on the gossip sheets, 150 it sold for. That's it. That's hard. Anything else?
And then 2 short, quick things that I just think might be prudent for some people to know. Listing and sales price do not directly determine your taxes. That falls on the assessed value.
Yeah. That's kind of you want that to be low.
Yeah.
That's assessed value, but then also sometimes people base that on this is what my home's worth, but they're not.
So yeah.
Yeah, let's talk to the city commissioner about
just because you sell your house for $500,000 doesn't necessarily mean that the county's going to have your taxes assessed at $500,000.
Right.
It might be assessed at $400,000, but you're hoping to get $500,000 because that's what the market will bear.
Yeah.
But I've also seen it on the flip side where the seller comes to us and says, "Well, my house is assessed at $500,000, and I know I haven't maintained it for 10 years." But I'd like to get $500,000 out of it. When in reality, it might only be worth $400,000 because nobody's actually went in and walked through that house. They don't know that the carpet is shot or the roof is falling apart. I mean, just different things like that. So there's 2 different sides to look at there. An assessed value, just because you sell your house for $500 doesn't mean that the county's going to go in and say, "Okay, we're raising that up to $500 right away."
Yeah.
They don't do that. They have their own equation that they use to figure out value of a house. And if I sell my house tomorrow for $600,000, is it going to be taxed at that next year? Probably not.
Yeah. There is possibility though it will raise. So
taxes fluctuate.
Yes, taxes do fluctuate anyways, and also once that appraised value comes up, we sold ours right after we did our garage. Our garage didn't hit our assessed value at the time because we built a garage and sold it. So once that kind of came on, because we did get a building permit and things got updated, their taxes did raise. So there is that aspect. So sometimes asking the tax value, yes, that's great to get a range, but it's not going to be everything. That's not going to be what you're locked in for 5 years.
Right.
And there is certain areas that have tax programs. So we built our house in the Southtown development. We get half. It's like a breakdown of so many years, they split our assessed value down, so our taxes are a little lower. So
And
there's those throughout.
That's also what can change your payment quite a bit on a mortgage is
Oh, yeah.
taxes. If you're, like 2 years ago, my tax assessed value jumped like $100,000 just to try and catch up with the market, but I mean, if you do that, that's a big swing in your payment.
Yeah.
That could add $300 to your payment pretty quick every month. And that's why they want people to have a buffer in there. So
It's kind of like when you think about when you're younger, you get a job. All you care about is that hourly rate. Like, how much an hour am I getting? And now, as you get older, you're like, what benefits come with this? Like, even benefits like not just health insurance, but the benefit of like, okay, I get to pick my own schedule, that kind of stuff. You start thinking about as you get older. Kind of like home value. At first, it's like, what's my principal that I'm paying? Well, now you're kind of like, what's the taxes on top of that? And home insurance is crazy nowadays too. So it's like those two factors.
But as homeowners, we should be okay with this because we don't want higher taxes, but what we always want when we go to sell our house? A higher price.
Yes.
So
yep. It all comes back together.
It does, yes.
For sure. What's your last one?
Last one, this one I didn't really know until I started getting into the business. Pre-qualification does not necessarily, it doesn't mean pre-approved.
Right.
Two very separate things. Being pre-qualified is good. Being pre-approved is a little bit more thorough.
The pre-approval, they kind of dive into your finances and they run your credit and different things like that.
Yeah.
And pre-qualified just means, what you punched in on the internet.
You are a human. You can buy a house.
Yeah.
You are over 18 and you're human.
But truthfully, I mean, pre-approved is good, but you still have to maintain that throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
A pre-approval is important, don't get me wrong.
Well,
but you have to maintain that job, that overtime. You have to maintain the same credit. You have to keep the same debt to income ratio throughout the whole process of buying. Otherwise, people don't realize that when a couple of days before closing, that lender's going to call your employment, and they're going to say, "Hey, does so and so still work there?"
Yep.
No, they left us last week, and then it's like, oh,
correct.
That changes everything.
Yeah. And that's pre-approval can update throughout time too. So you're looking for houses and you kind of don't have a strict timeline. You're looking for over 2 or 3 years. That pre-approval is only good for a short time.
Yeah.
Because everything changes. You pay something off, you buy something new.
And the amount of your pre-approval can vary greatly. Like when we had 2% interest versus 6.5% interest, you might have been pre-approved for a $250,000 house at 3% interest, but now you're approved for a $200,000 house because the interest rate is 6.5%. So those are all things that factor into that as well.
For sure.
And then, just because you're buying if you're tapped out maxing your budget, your lender may have figured in a $2,000 tax bracket. Well, if you find this really good deal on this house in this good neighborhood, but the taxes are $10,000 a year, well, that changes everything there again.
Yep. It's crazy how quickly it can change.
That's why you need a good lender in your corner to say, hey, this is the one I'm looking at. Let me know that I'm good to go.
Yeah, for sure. And they can run all that and usually kind of have a pretty quick response back to it. So, Yep. And that's why things are also contingent on financing.
Yes.
Because
all the way to the end.
Yep. Contingencies.
Yeah.
Love them. So, no. But there is a lot of slang stuff that gets mixed up. There's a lot of misconceptions about real estate. So we try to stay up to date. We're over here studying our terms now.
That's right.
Yep. So we will be ready to sell to the next generation.
That's right.
Once that Gen Alpha comes up, we're ready for them.
Yeah.
So as always,
Well, thanks for joining us today, Alex.
Anytime.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And remember, who you work with matters.